Welcome to MACCARESE SPA. I would first of all like to thank the Granda Team company for having me here. It is with great pleasure that I agreed to go back to the topic of the transition period, following up on the conversation we had in 2018 at the Transition Day meeting in Codogno. Let me introduce you to MACCARESE SPA. It is a large agro-zootechnical company covering 3,420 hectares on the outskirts of Rome. It borders with Rome's Fiumicino Airport and is home to a herd of 3,600 heads of cattle. We currently milk around 1,500 cows and cover 20% of Rome's milk requirements. In July 2021, MACCARESE obtained an important recognition. It first changed its corporate status to that of an agricultural benefit corporation. This means that part of the profits are destined to environmental and social improvement, with specific local initiatives. It was then included in the United Nations Global Compact Network, an organization of companies and private organizations that places environmental sustainability, human rights, and anti-corruption at the center of its activities. This has further strengthened our conviction to continue investing heavily in the agro-zootechnical sector. For this reason, the company has for some time now been making a series of investments aimed at diversifying its production. Shortly, in December 2022, MACCARESE will start producing the largest almond orchard in Italy, extending over 120 hectares of our land, and we will expand our renewable energy sector. We will add to the 1.5 megawatts generated by our biogas plants an additional megawatt from solar power, making our farm fully self-sufficient. And we will then invest on our animals. The dairy farm will absorb 50% of the investment, with the aim of milking 1,800 cows by 2025, with a total of 100 employees working on the farm. Our investments will mainly focus on building a new 60-unit rotary milking parlor, and subsequently we're going to upgrade the facilities relating to the transition period, which is in fact the subject of our webinar today. This is because, going back to some of the concepts of the 2018 Transition Day meeting in Codogno, I remain convinced to this day that it is necessary to continue investing in infrastructures, guaranteeing space for the cows in transition. This is why we're going to oversize the cow shed for dry cows, which will have a total capacity of 140% compared to the number of calvings. But not only are we going to invest in facilities, our attention is going to focus mainly on the transition period, because I believe that the transition period is the most important phase in dairy cow management, as everything is generated around calving, the new heifer, the new lactation, the future reproduction of the cow. That is why we have been collaborating for a long time, not only with research institutes, but also with private companies, in order to have very effective, very timely collaborations. And this is the subject of our webinar of today. For some time now, we have been carrying out collaborations with the Granda Team company, many focused on the transition period. We conducted a trial with CONTROFLOX aimed precisely at further improving the performance of fresh cows. So what did we do? We compared two time intervals, the summer of 2020 and the summer of 2021. In 2021, in the group of fresh cows from 0 to 21 days, we administered 50 grams per head per day of CONTROFLOX. Subsequently, the group of Alessandro Gillette and Dr. Gallo asked me to mainly focus on the management of metritis, which is the subject of our study. Let me first show you the data of the last 2 years. We had about 3,434 calvings, and next to that I have given you a summary of the percentage of the various diseases. As you can see, we are managing the transition period well enough, but over time we want to be able to further reduce the incidence of diseases during transition in fresh cows. Before showing you the results of the trial, I want to give you an overview, a picture of what our farm has been like in the last 2 years. Here is a summary of the data from DairyComp In this slide, you can see that we had 3,434 calvings, and then you can see the percentage incidence of the main diseases. Focusing on metritis, the incidence was of 11%. The periods in which we suffer most are, I imagine, the same as those for all of you dairy farmers, meaning during the peak of winter calvings and during the summer. The aim of this trial was to see if CONTROFLOX could help us reduce the incidence of metritis during the summer period. So what did we do? We compared two time periods, June, July, August 2020 versus June, July, August 2021. We didn't change anything in our management, nothing from a feeding point of view. The only variable that we could influence, but not totally control, was the summer weather conditions. So I can already anticipate that there was a significant difference in the THI, as in our farm, with data loggers, we are able to detect the temperature and humidity and then generate the THI daily. As you can see from this slide extracted from DairyComp, I highlighted the incidence of metritis during the two periods compared, the control group, which is 2020, versus the treated group in 2021. You can see that overall, the incidence of metritis was significantly reduced, and it was obviously reduced also by cow parity in both multiparous and primiparous cows. To summarize, in this slide you see the data for about 411 calvings in 2020 and 415 in 2021. And in this table you can see the difference. There was a 47.6% reduction in the incidence of metritis in primiparous cows and of 37% in multiparous cows. So as confirmed in the slide, there was a significant result. Our goal was then to see if this reduction in the incidence of metritis would have also had an impact on reproduction. So we took into account all the reproduction data from the approximately 800 fresh cows that entered into the study. We entered all the data in SAS, the Statistical Analysis Program, and you can see that there was a reduction in the number of inseminations per pregnancy and in the calving to conception interval. You can see that we passed from 286 inseminations per pregnancy to 185 and decreased the calving to conception interval from 132 to 106. We then analyzed additional data. With the data in the next slide, I wanted to see, and I asked Alessandro and Stefan about it, if this product could have an impact on production. We decided, however, to examine this further on, as I prefer to examine completed lactations. In any case, ingestion did not change. We had more or less the same ingestion in both groups, 19 kilograms of dry matter ingested per head per day in 2020, 19.2 in 2021. We did have a lower milk production at the 4th and 8th week, but this was strongly influenced by the heat stress, and I invite you to see from this graph that in 2020 there was no variation between the milk at the 4th week and the milk at the 8th week, while we had an increase of 1 kilogram between the 4th and the 8th week in the treated group, although lower. This means that notwithstanding a condition of stress, the cows certainly responded well. Finally, as economic data is always important, we wanted to give an economic value to this field trial. So what did we do? We had to attribute a cost to metritis, and so we took as reference the value quoted in the latest publication by Santos in 2020, which gives a value of about $511 per case of metritis, which is 450 euros, meaning 5.5 euros per day for days open. What did we do? We simply processed the data, as you can see in this table, and the result was a reduction in costs of about 34,800 euros. And this includes, obviously, everything. We intend, as I said before, to analyze all the production data in the near future. This trial, therefore, further reinforced our conviction that since the transition period is, in our opinion, the focal point of dairy cow management, it is inevitable for us to continue investing, both in financial terms and in terms of knowledge, on this important period, and to never stop. With this, I thank you all, and I thank again the Granda Team company.